today to call attention to some egregious actions of CPS caseworkers and supervisors and Judge Olvera, the Associate Judge of the 256th District Court. The Tutt family, which is a fine family, they're a homeschool family. They've adopted children. They have a ministry to the homeless, they help the needy, and an allegation was made against them by CPS back in September. The caseworker came out initially and said there's no problem here. And later, that same caseworker came back and asked for documentation on parenting classes and wanted to do a psychological evaluation. The mother gave her some information that she thought met those qualifications. The caseworker said, I'll get back to you if I don't have to, there's a problem with this. Never called her, went to court in November at an ex parte hearing, which means she went to Judge Olvera without the family's notification or representation. The judge in that case refused to give her an order to participate, which is what the caseworker testified in court that she was asking for, and instead issued an order to remove the children. And the state statute requires the children have to be in imminent danger for that to happen. The caseworker later testified in court that she recognized that. She didn't do that, but she added that to the court record to justify that taking. So in the course of this, the reason we're involved is because in the course of this, in the initial hearing, which was supposed to focus on the reason for removal, evidence was never presented on the justification for removal, but instead they focused on the family's faith, their community service, and attacking local homeschooling. Judge Olvera refused to return the children. And in a follow-up hearing in Judge Callahan's court on January the 7th, Judge Callahan acknowledged that nothing had happened there to justify the removal of the children. So she allowed some of the children to go back home, but refused to allow the family to continue to homeschool. Forced the family to put the kids in a public school. And ordered a psychological evaluation, some other things. To this date, 3 weeks later, CPS has made no actions to fulfill those things as an effort to restore this family. So our organization is calling on the governor and the Senate and House committees that oversee CPS to investigate, call for the commissioner of DFBS to investigate this caseworker and supervisor for these egregious and we believe illegal actions that have essentially resulted in the abuse of these children, ripped from their families, traumatized, and then we also calling on county officials who appointed Judge Olvera to review that, and we believe she should be removed for that egregious action. So, nobody's in favor of child abuse. We are all for that, but in this situation, a caseworker and a judge have taken illegal actions that have resulted in the abuse of these children.
It seems like this is something that's affected everyone. How parents are they doing?
Well, exactly. It's affected everyone. These children were, the guardian ad litem appointed by Judge Olvera made homeschooling the issue. She told the family personally, she said, I don't see any problem with this family, but if you don't agree to not homeschool, I'm not going to recommend that we return the children. So these children were taken away from their parents for 2 months. They've been traumatized or obviously, having those kind of concerns. The family, this is every family's worst nightmare. And so we're all for protecting children, but just because a family is homeschooling or because they help the homeless or those sort of things, that doesn't justify abusing the law or refusing to follow the law and taking people's kids.
So you have a court here. What's next?
Well, obviously the Judge Callahan's court continues to have jurisdiction over this case. So she's waiting for CPS to take the action she required in terms of academic assessment and psychological evaluation. We are moving forward with the governor's office and the legislators to investigate this situation from our perspective. And then, of course, we would hope that local officials in Dallas County would deal legitimately with it.
I'm Ashley. I'm the oldest adult child of the Tutts, and I'm married and have children. And back in November, I received a phone call saying, "Hi, they've taken our children. I need you to meet Mom up at the courthouse." And so I told Trevor, "Okay, I'll do that." And I met Mom at the same time. We went up there, And throughout the course of the meeting, where Mom was supposed to get answers, she was constantly told, I don't know. Mom said, so what was the cause of removal? What did you tell the judge? And she goes, I don't know. I didn't tell the judge anything. Now I have to come up with something to tell her. She's going to be mad at me. And we didn't understand, but she still didn't give any answers. And Mom said, well, what can I do to get my kids back? The caseworker still said, I don't know. I didn't really know. And then she goes, you're going to learn not to tell CPS no. And it kind of ended the meeting like that. And Mom wasn't allowed to see the children, wasn't allowed to say goodbye. The caseworker said, well, we don't do kinship placements anymore, so she wouldn't let them come home with me. And it was really just kind of ended it and just sent Mom on her way.
I'm Chris Frazier. I'm a family friend of the Tutts. I've known them for 5 years. And I attended both hearings in their entirety. And the first hearing, presided over by Judge Olvera, lasted 12 hours. And throughout the entire 12 hours, no evidence supporting the written removal was ever provided or discussed. So we were scratching our heads as to what exactly was this all about. And instead, the whole 12 hours was spent basically attacking the Tutts personally, attacking their community service with faith-based organizations and their service to the homeless and down and out children, and it also attacked their homeschooling of the children, basically tried to devalue the homeschooling and say that it was not valid, and put everything in light of public schooling and tried to compare public schooling and homeschooling, and it was just brutal.
I'm Beth. I'm also a friend of the Tutts and also attended both long court dates. The caseworker said from the stand repeatedly, the house was fine. There was nothing she saw showed them being in danger. But that she had asked for the judge to issue an order to comply, and that she kept saying, well, we didn't ask for this, we didn't want this, we didn't ask for this. And the time periods between the time she was in the home and the paperwork was done showed that she couldn't have sincerely thought the children were in danger.
My name is Brenda Rowe, and I'm a neighbor of the Tutts. I live about 4 streets away from them. And her children play in my home, and my children play in her home. And she came to my home when the children were removed in a bit of a panic, of course. And it has just snowballed into this horrific situation. And I was able to go to the first hearing. I sat out in the waiting room as I was supposed to be a witness for that. So I sat there for the 12 hours waiting. And we were never allowed to give our side of the story. And I was able to sit in the second hearing. And I think the thing that really was the most interesting at the very end of the hearing, Judge Callahan said, of all the evidence that was presented here today, none of this was warranted the removal of the children from the home. So because of that, I'm going to return 4 of them. I'm not going to return them all. I'll return 4 of them. But even though I'm returning them, you still will not be allowed to homeschool yet. You will need to continue to keep them in public school until we get some educational assessment done. It's an infringement on homeschooling rights and parental rights.
I'm Erica Good, and I am friends with the Tutt family. On the hearing on January 7th, the caseworker testified that she knew that the mother, Christina Tutt, believed that she was in compliance with all CPS requirements. After further testifying, she then stated that she did nothing to communicate with her to tell her she was not in compliance with CPS requirements. And instead of communicating with her, she went to the judge and added words into her statement to have the children removed. After hearing the caseworker's testimony, I was just appalled to hear that she never communicated with the mother and went right to the judge and added words to get these children removed, and I was appalled by the whole situation.
Hey, my name is Candy Summers, and I've been friends with the Tutts for 6 years, and I attended the January 7th hearing. And since that hearing, CPS has not communicated with the family. They haven't set up any visitation with the children who are still outside the home. They have not scheduled the court-ordered psych evaluation for the parents that would facilitate this family being brought back together. And I feel like their family is still being abused by CPS, even though some of their children have been returned to them because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.